All right, friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related, and it says right here, Mountain Blade 2, Bannerlord, Warsails. We are going to get our first exposure to this amazing new expansion from Tailworlds, this sea expansion of Bannerlord here, and it looks like we have the Empress overlooking a fleet as she goes by her city. The artists really have done a tremendous job with this. Now we've had one or two ship battles, two to be clear, just to get a little bit of feel for it, and we're going to jump right into a sandbox playthrough and talk about some of the changes. We will look at troops. We are definitely going to play the NORDs to start here. This is going to be a very casual playthrough. I will try to fill it with little idiosyncratic commentary as I normally do. We will try to keep the profanity to a fucking minimum. And right away, it's interesting. You see red down here. This catches my eye right away. These are the advantages and disadvantages that come with the different kingdoms. And this is a really interesting one that the Nords have. So is this. You can infer basically, and somewhat historically accurate, what the gameplay style is sort of recommended. 30% more loot from villagers, and caravans. 20% ship movement speed on rivers and coastal areas. So basically, we're supposed to cruise up and down the villages of the enemy, sacking all their villagers, taking all their shit, robbing their caravans, and then getting into our ships and taking off. Because the bottom one is a negative. It says armies that are commanded by a Nord commander, us, lose 30% more cohesion on land. What that means is that you lose influence, which means that you have to be a really good commander to be able to maintain an army on land. So almost like a hurricane. They lose energy as they go over the ocean. I think that's pretty cool, right? It's a nice realistic effect. So I don't really care too much here. We're just going to choose a gigantic Nordic looking fella. He's got some beard beads going on here. And this is part of the new changes, right? There are some changes physically. They've added new hairstyles. We're not going to spend too much time on it. This is going to be a relatively fast, casual playthrough. We're not going to be min-maxing stuff here. I just want a relatively athletic guy who throws throwing axes. It's going to be a fairly cliched character. We will eventually make epic campaigns and storylines down the road. This is just to get our feet on the ground. We're going to start walking before we run, and I just want an athletic guy who's got some two-handed throwing, some vigor. I prefer a guy who can run. We're going to be running a lot. We'll probably ride a horse a little bit, but we're also going to be doing a lot of athletics, right? So athletics and bow. We're just going to kind of cruise through these. And honestly, I don't really care too much, right? I'm not too worried about making the perfect character. We'll talk about some of that stuff along the way, perhaps, and we'll definitely be focused on tactics. We're not just going to slop our way through this playthrough. I'll say too, it's probably going to be truncated. I don't think I'll show you every single little thing, especially when you're chasing down looters and things like that. But there's a lot to see and a lot going on, right? I think it's just fine, right? We could take some of that, I guess, polearm bow. Let's make sure we got some decent melee skill. We'll say he's a middle-aged Viking. I'm closer to this number than that number. I'm an old guy. Can't tell. Doesn't really matter. Now, this is something right away I wish they would change. I wish the colors, there was more variability to it. In other words, I wish I could do like purple or something like that. There's no sumptuary laws back then. Sumptuary laws were basically where they said only the king can wear purple, stuff like that. And this is something that I would like to see them improve upon. We'll talk about stuff like that as well. This will probably at times sound like me griping. It's more just a player who loves Bannerlord. Let's just put that out the outset. I have 16,500 hours on Bannerlord, at least according to the console, which means I've played for roughly 17 years straight without sleeping. I shit in the bucket right where I sit. You guys don't have to smell it. You're fortunate on that side of things. But in any case, what you're watching is somebody who's very experienced, who knows some parts of the game very well and other parts very poorly. So those little caveats aside, we will cruise into this campaign. Nordic. I do not speak Nordic. We will do our best to pronounce Huskarl and other things. Please correct me. I'm very, very, very receptive to being corrected, especially when I'm ignorant. After all, I'm an American, so I'm used to being ignorant. Our education system has fallen apart. And we have been told to not follow the storyline, or at least do not reveal trailers, secrets, stuff like that. So anything that looks like that, we'll be doing some editing afterwise. But for the most part, I'm just going to kind of explore. We're going to take it nice and easy in this campaign. I'll talk about little things like this at times. I want to focus on, I think, hit points. Ordinarily, I want speed, but I think at the beginning here, we're going to start off with hit points because we're going to have a little tiny peasant army. I'm going to do lots of athleticism. We'll do lots of one-handed and probably a little bit of polearm too, maybe even a little bit of riding. And here's why. The Nords do not get horses. However, the bottom line in Bannerlord is it's very difficult to command your army from the ground level. We've grown comfortable on the channel, the royal we. I don't have my identical twin sitting next to me. I've grown comfortable doing it, but a lot of players are really uncomfortable on a horse, on the ground, commanding from the ground. And so we're going to level up our riding skill a little bit here at the outset because it's the easiest way for me to show you the battlefield as well. And already we got some new shit here. So let's explore this briefly. I'm not going to go through every perk, of course. Guys like Strat Gaming Guide will cover this in great detail. As usual, I will be happy to send you over to his channel. Now, this is interesting. There's no attribute here, right? You got vigor, social, intelligent, all these different things. And I have these skills here, but there's no attribute points that affect that. What that tells me is that you either can't put one here or you can only... It must be that you can't do it because I just assigned some points and there isn't any ability to do that here. Unless they cross. It doesn't look like they cross with like social intelligence. I guess we'll have to see. In any case, though, this has to do with the fact that you're fighting on the water. So you got, it looks like various skills that help you. A 30% accuracy penalty from the ship roll. We just had a ship battle, just made our first little battle episode on a ship, and I was trying to throw javelins, and a couple of my javelins were released right as the ship crested to the top of the wave, and my javelin went flying way over the target, right? So you've got some skills here that we'll have to look at closer. We're not going to worry about them too much right now, but this is obviously critical, or at least it's going to be important because ship warfare plays a significant role in the game. Let's do this early on, too. Let's just pull way back. And they have done a magnificent job laying out the land. There's an island over here. It looks like there's a castle and a city. There's the mainland. And I think there are anchors. I read, here we go. So these little anchors mean there's a port there. That means that they can be blockaded. That's not something we'll do in the first episode. If you've never heard of that term, it's basically prevent them from trading, prevent them from getting reinforcement troops by a fleet, you know, a bunch of ships menacing them from the outside. And this, I gotta say, even though this DLC is just coming out, this is also brain candy for the future, right? The Darshi, Persians, elephants, who knows, right? But you can see Tail Worlds is definitely lining up their ducks here to have quite a little run of future DLCs, right? We're all anticipating war elephants and things like that, at least hoping down the road. So really interesting here. I guess the Nords will look a little closer here. It looks like we have 3 or 4 cities. That's a castle, city. So they don't have that many cities. Do they have any other cities? Like way up here? This is like Iceland, right? Or Greenland. I guess they were reversed, right? Iceland was actually green and Greenland is actually ice. So they don't have that many cities. It looks like we have 3 cities and a half dozen castles. I just want to give you a little overview, though, of what we're looking at here. And it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of maps there are. In fact, let's do this, right? This is the first time we've been in NORD. I don't know if I'm going to just say Viking each time. I don't know if that's an acceptable slang for it. Of course, the graphics have been improved with the 1.3 beta. We're playing on a pretty nice system. This system's probably $1,000 to assemble yourself, maybe $1,200 from a store. And our first look here at a Viking town, and what I see here are highly defendable towns. In fact, let's just do this. This is going to be a lot faster to look over the city. Our channel focuses on tactics. Our channel focuses on battlefield technique, which is tactics, and strategies to win battles with your brain, right? We're going to use our sword, our shield, our throwing axe as well, but on top of all that, we're going to use our brain. Now you can see there's a port down there. And what I see here is a highly defendable city. Now, these are level 1 walls, I'm almost sure, right? That means they're really low. They go up to level 3. They'll get taller. Maybe they'll have stone, or maybe they'll still be wood like some Botanian or Valandian places. You got a little beggar down here. So the The towns, though, already, at least the first one I've seen here, look really defendable. And we'll talk more about that. In fact, we'll try to defend some. Of course, we'll defend some for this playthrough because it's one of the best ways to get a lot of kills, level your character and companions. And in 30 seconds, 20 seconds, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for lack of enemy line of sight to our courtyard, which we have here. The enemy can't touch us in this courtyard until they get on the walls. And number two, and this is more important, lots of line of sight for archers that are standing down here to shoot guys on the walls. Because what we will then do is we will then clog the heck out of these stairways, let the enemy up on the walls. We're just fine with them coming up on the walls, right? Come and get killed. We will log jam them up here on the walls and then pile their carcasses high enough here to feed our crops for multiple years. This is going to work in a dreamy fashion. The gate is brilliantly designed so that we can get skirmishers all along the edges here, just firing in crossfire on the enemy coming in the gate, and they can't even attack those guys because we can put additional units on the stairs here. So just our initial glances here. City defense, it looks highly practical, highly defendable for the Norse. Of course, that's just one city, right? They have 3 more cities to explore. We'll have to look at the castles too. Now, at the beginning, of course, in a campaign, you start very poor. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to do go to port. Let's check this out. What do we do here? All right, so here's how you access all the different things related to the water, right? We don't have any ships, it says. We can wait. We can manage our fleet and probably say, you don't have any boats, right? I guess it takes us to another screen, it looks like here. More great art. And from here, you can buy boats and stuff like that. And what's amazing about this is I saw a little tutorial. Yeah. You can come in here and put custom shields and storm covers and certain types of upgrades to the boats. So we're talking a huge amount of dynamism with the ships, right? You can make them more armored, maybe. You can make them withstand archers better, or maybe you can upgrade the sails, things like that. So there's some really good stuff happening with the boats. Obviously, right now, we don't have a boat, right? So we're just sort of a dreaming homeless guy wandering around the village. Now we just said go to port. So this is probably a little bit like the tavern. I can probably go right up to this door and it'll say, hey, do you want to go to the city? Yeah, so the city's basically bifurcated into this outer area. And look at this guard. He's got his bear hood. That's freaking rad. Right, so you have these bifurcated areas, and this is like a dock, a dock area, right? There's a bunch of people going about their labor. In fact, this is how you recruit this guy, the guy that's carrying the big heavy thing. I want him on my ship, right? Not only will that guy paddle well, he'll kick ass, but he's used to working hard, right? We need these guys to paddle. We will talk about ship warfare, but just wanted to give you guys at least 5 or 10 minutes, little touches of all the flourishings and artwork that they have done for this. They really have done an amazing job. All the additional artwork, I think their artists score high consistently. I think people consistently agree they do a beautiful job. All right, so enough of that. Let's see, how do I go back here? I'm in a port. I want to go to the town center. Here we go. All right, so let's talk about practical stuff here. Wait. Let's talk about troops. You don't have any ships. All right, so this is new too. This little thing here, that must be how we manage our ships. Here's our party. I didn't even realize. My name is Vimy. All right, how do I look at troops? Let's see. We'll try to recruit some. There aren't any troops. That's pretty funny. NORD something, right? NORD warrior. All right, we got some meat and potatoes stuff here. And this is meat and potatoes for us because we do all kinds of analysis on the channel. We do all kinds of what units are good, how to use them, what they're good at, etc. Right? So let's just spend, I don't know, I'm looking at my phone. We'll spend 5 minutes just talking about troops here because these are all brand new, right? And it's going to be really interesting. There's no way we could cover it very well in that 5 minutes, right? We're going to have to see a lot of this stuff up close. But what do I see here at a glance? I see an archer line. I see a polearm line, right? They have a polearm guy, kind of like a Volgier. They have a one-handed axe guy. Oh, this guy's got it all. Okay. So they have a multi-purpose dude with a killer-looking piece of armor, right? Again, like he's wearing like a bear cloak, like the kind of thing from True Grit, where that guy rolls up with his donkeys. You guys have probably never seen that movie. You need to go see it. See it with your wife. She'll wonder what the hell's wrong with you. All right, so here we have a true berserker. Now, it's ironic because this guy's called a berserker, but he has a sword and a shield. Now he has a one-handed tier 6 sword. Wow. That's pretty nice. They all have the... Okay. So they've got nice equipment, right? Tier 6 swords for your units. That's pretty unusual. Pretty nice equipment there. And this guy's got... He's got a tier 6 two-handed axe. And this is new. Raven's Wing Axe. That's what this is here, where it's sort of hollow. Seems like it would break. But that is new, right? So we're going to learn what's kind of good and bad about it. At just a glance here, it looks like a pretty medium speed, pretty long axe. 129 is pretty long reach, right? So these are almost executioner axe long. And then this guy's got throwing axes. All right, so they got a couple really nice warrior-looking lines here. And I imagine the stats are relatively... Yeah, these are relatively normal stats for Tier 5. I sort of will recognize outliers as we see them. Anything that looks really mentionable, I will do so. So you got a straight berserker here with no shield, but he has a one-handed axe. I wish they didn't have a one-handed axe in this case because it's just a wasted weapon. You don't ever want him using his one-handed axe, right? You want him using that. So... then we have the Berserker line, or the Ulfhedin. We better say it right. I had someone tell me these are Ulfhednars. So, in fact, Ulfhednar, that's the name of his polearm. What I was told is that Ulfhedin is plural, that these guys are actually Ulfhednar, but we won't worry too much about stuff like that. Just know that I heard that. So these guys are polearm guys, and the rumor is they have a really fast swinging lethal polearm. Now you can't really tell there because it says one-handed polearm. That just means you can use it with the shield. These guys obviously don't have a shield, so they're going to be using this two-handed, which means those stats are sort of moot point because it's showing you the one-handed stats there. And then it looks like the tier 4 guy, a NORD Warfang. This guy's got a different weapon as well. And Etger, we're going to have to learn to speak a little bit of Norse. And he's got a sword. All right. This guy looks great. And I don't mean because he's got a good head of hair. This guy's got a great weapon mix. This is the kind of weapon mix you would see on a tier 5 unit. Oh, and this is new too. This little thing there, that must mean that they fight well in water. I noticed that the Nords have those. I presume like your Fiend champs and things like that do not have that, right? It's basically, so this is a big advantage for the Nords. You basically need to fight at water to maximize their potential, which is interesting, right? Because they're going to be a little bit like England's Navy against the French in the 1800s, where the English couldn't invade, but neither could the French get on the water. Napoleon get all his boats sunk. And what I notice here with this is versatility. This guy reminds me of the Tier 5 Aserai Veteran Infantry. This guy's got a polearm. He's got a sword. He throws javelins. And they're Tier 4 javelins, and there's 5 of them. Okay, so right away, this guy's an outlier. I'm just going to tell you right now, unless his stats are terrible, and they don't look terrible. They don't look great either. You notice his one-hand skill's a lot lower than the other guy. But these are highly well-rounded defensive infantry. Probably good in a square. And they're good skirmishers too, right? You don't normally see 5 javelins, Tier 4 javelins on a low-level unit. Now, his throwing skill sucks, so it's kind of an eclectic mix. It's like kind of ironic, these guys with the high throwing skill, and they have absolutely shit weapons. A throwing knife, right? This is the last thing you want this guy doing, is pulling out his little pocket knife and chucking. He sets down his man-cleaving Ulfhednar Etgir, and then throws his little pocket knife, right? We'll talk about that during this campaign. This campaign will be truncated somewhere between 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes. Kind of depends on the popularity of it. I am filming this at a stage where we are under what's called an embargo. There is 40, 50, 60 content makers, people who have significant YouTube audiences that were given a very fine privilege by Tale Worlds to help us essentially spread the word about the game, show you guys a little bit, get the hype built up a little bit, report bugs, stuff like that. And I could not share this content until they basically gave us the green light. If you're watching this, that means either I've made a boo-boo or we've been given the green light. Now, the archer line, I've been curious about the archer line. So it does look like their archers have a single quiver, and this is significant. Basically, their archers, they look more like tanks that happen to have a bow than archers in a traditional manner. This guy is not going to have that many arrows. You see how it says 20? This guy's going to have a limited amount of ammo, but then he enters the fray and he's got some pretty good armor, right? 46 for his helmet. This guy's going to be serviceable in combat. In fact, 140 one-handed. Okay, so that tells you all you need to know. This guy it's actually exactly how I described him. This is a warrior who happens to have a bow, basically. And I like that. I think that's very appropriate. Now these guys, how interesting. So the lower tier archer, the NORD archers, have more ammo. So this is interesting. This is another point to make here before we move on. These guys, basically, you want to mix some of these guys into your army because it's going to help you to sustain you in longer fights. You're going to run out of ammo with these guys. These guys effectively, whoops. Oh, I don't know what unit that's from. Marauder? Oh, he's right there. These guys effectively are going to turn into infantry early on, and they're going to function a little bit like on the channel, fellas, how we do sharpshooters. Crossbow, Imperial Sergeant crossbow. These guys are going to be up on the front lines after they dump their arrows into the enemy, and I think that's a good change. Now the Huskarl, I was told it was they're pronounced Huskarl, like H-O-O Carl, and this is okay. So this is their tier 6. This is their noble line, and you notice no cavalry. If you haven't heard that yet, none of the Norse have horses. So you might have a horse yourself as the commander. And of course, you might eventually end up getting some Khazate units, Valandian units, etc. But their initial army, no horses at all. Which means, right, they need to have excellent infantry. Tier 6 sword. And it looks like they do. He's got a nice spear. Unfortunately, he has throwing axes, right? Give him those nasty javelins that tier 3 guy have, and he would be complete. His armor's kind of weak. And his stats are not overwhelming. I kind of expected the numbers to be higher. I expected his athleticism to be like 260 or something like that, because this is what they're going to roll out there to take on fiend champs and things like that. It's not great, right? When I look at that, I actually think their tier 6 is a little bit on the soft side. And we'll see. They might fight totally different, right? You can't just judge a book by its cover, and that goes the same way for troops in Bannerlord. Until you see what they're doing on the battlefield, you just don't know what these guys are going to be able to do. Now, we'll try to cover little tips that I've learned over the course of many hours of Bannerlord. We're not doing stealth at all. I'll just tell you that right now. A lot of the guys that are out there, they want to see stealth. I will happily recommend other channels for you to visit, but that's not my bag. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in hiding from my enemy like a coward. We're going to go up to them and smash them in the face. Now, we're going to sell. Where did all my shit go? I took all his stuff off, and what, did it just go away? It's like it disappeared. Okay, it's all right here. Can I sell this shit? All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're just going to sell this shit. At the beginning of a Bannerlord campaign, money is very dear, and that's perfect. That would be effective in a stealth situation, right? No one's going to fuck with you if you're naked and well hung with a bag at your side, right? We can leave him that pebble. That way it looks like he's carrying around God knows what in there, and that'll be effective anyways. So you do all that because this is huge to get that money early on. Now, of course, if you're going to do stealth, you don't do any of that. And if you want to do stealth, like I said, you're going to either learn it on your own or you're going to find somebody else's episode covering that. I don't think it makes a lot of sense that there's complex stealth. I'm glad it's saved because who knows the stability about this. But to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense that stealth is a big part of the game. I guess it's nice because it is a sandbox, right? You can go and do stuff with it, but I want to see it more fleshed out before it's really more usable. Now, these are the NORD lords, and notice no cavalry at all, right? This gal, 0 cavalry. So that's going to be a theme, consistent theme. And again, I'm really wondering, are there mercenary units that are at least on a horse for the Nords, right? And just a huge stack of looters. Now, it's going to be interesting. Let's see. What kind of troops do we have? We just picked up. So these are the lowest. These are tier 1. You know what's really interesting? These are tier 1, and they have a shield. It's a rope-bound shield. That's not good, right? They put a piece of wood and wrapped some rope around it. But that's going to be important because one of the themes that we have definitely discovered with the 1.3 beta. Whoops, we're probably captured. That guy popped out of nowhere. Maybe it was because it was dark or we have low scouting skill. Well, we're going to get captured here in the first 15 minutes of the stream. That's okay. We'll show you how to deal with that when that happens, because we're almost certainly going to get captured here. We'll see what we can do. Well, you know what we need to do? We need to look at our character's equipment. We don't even know what we got for equipment. I can't get away, so we have to fight. Spear. Okay, it's not great. What else do we have here? What's this? There's a tier 3 sword on his civilian clothes. Well, we'll take that. I might need that. Let's see here. So yeah, it's a long reach sword. We'll take it, right? This, ironically, this sword that's for his little civilian side, we're not going to be farting around much with that side either. We're not going to, basically, we're not going to be going in and trying to take over alleys and stuff like that. But one of the things, let me finish that point. One of the things that we've definitively noticed, and man, am I slow on a horse, about the beta, I can't believe how slow he is. It's like he's never ridden a horse before. I guess he's a Norse, right? This guy, he's moving slow, and we're going to get mangled. Lots of rocks are coming our way. Is that archers are accurate, right? And right before I got hit by a rock, I was trying to say that's one of the big changes with Bannerlord, is that archers now are super accurate, and that includes every single little rock there hit my shield. That includes the looters, basically. And I'm not thrilled about it, to be honest. I think archers already were really powerful. In fact, I've seen a few guys kind of making snide comments about how they're getting their asses kicked by looters. And there's no question. I'm a very experienced player, and these guys are just pounding me with refuse. You know, I feel like one of those nobles who just gets garbage thrown at him, you know, because they did something bad. That's how it feels. The looters are just going to rock people. And I'm not sure that's a great change, because ultimately nobody really wants to get captured by looters. And that's for sure going to happen to a huge amount of new players, right? What just happened to me, now we're literally, and they're like, what kind of game is this? I'm captured. I'm getting toted around. What happened to all my troops? They're gone. At least we escaped here. We didn't have to pay money. And we didn't have a bunch of shit that we just lost right there, right? We didn't have a whole bunch of loot we lost. So we're actually not too indisposed by that. But I guess to finish that point is archers are deadly accurate in Bannerlord. What that means is that we need to try to go get a bunch, right? Even though we're going to play the Nords for this playthrough, I would imagine an optimal archer army, or an optimal army rather, or composition for the Nords, 40% archers. Even though you're going to have this meat grinding infantry, you're going to be, I think, very depressed if you go fighting early on in campaigns with 15 infantry and no archers. First, there's almost no tactics you can do with 15 infantry. With archers, you can, though. You can split them, even if they're kind of running all over the place. Now, there's no villages here. This place feels, well, I guess that's just kind of like an empty pocket right there. You're going to want your archers, is the bottom line. And ultimately, I haven't really started this campaign, but I'm working on it. And it's a campaign essentially to tone down archers a little bit. They actually made archers even more accurate for the 1.3 update, which means, you know, the archers that we're facing right now. Now, what was that? That guy was a scion. Okay, so that's one of the noble units. He was only 50, I think. So the noble units are pretty cheap. That's kind of nice. But ultimately, I think archers are considerably too strong, right? They basically, here's the way I look at archers. There's no scenario where they're not better than the other troops. The only conceivable way that archers are in a really bad spot is if they have no support and they are fighting lots of cavalry, right, in the open. That's the only scenario. All the other scenarios, they're superior. They're better in siege. They're better in environments where the enemy can be funneled, and they're better in ships, right, so far. Now, we've only done a couple battles, but so far in ship warfare, archers seem like a key there as well, too. So you get into a situation where it's like, well, what if they're better at everything, right? There must be some units that are not good at a lot of things. And I think the answer to that right now is probably infantry, right? We will see. This playthrough is going to be 2/3 explorations, 20% me just rambling randomly. Look at this guy's racing right at me. Oh, he's running, it says. Okay. But we're also going to be, you know, kind of observing balance as a heavy content producer for YouTube. We're going to be sending notes to Tailworld saying, maybe we could do this. And quite honestly, we were a major factor in getting cavalry boosted before this update as well, right? We quite plainly posted videos on YouTube showing the weakness of cavalry, and I think now maybe archers are the next units that need to be adjusted. It's really not just archers. What it is it's ranged units, right? Ranged units in Bannerlord are uber powerful, and they got even stronger with 1.3, right? These are looters, and I'm very concerned because they're firing garbage at me. Now, one of our troops just threw a throwing axe and killed a looter. That must be our noble units, right? We've got these noble units that are part of our party. But you can barely get a spear swing off, right? These nobles... Now, we're playing the hardest difficulty, right? We're playing Bannerlord difficulty or whatever it is. Well, it's not whatever it is. Of course, it's absolutely Bannerlord difficulty, but it's still sort of alarming how deadly ranged units are. And it's even more of a factor when you have archers or infantry only, right? We have all infantry. So we're going to be upgrading archers here as soon as we can. And when you start your playthrough, I strongly advise you to consider larger and larger armies of archers than you're probably used to playing before. Man, the lands are barren. So especially the northern parts here, which is probably historically accurate, but boy, it doesn't make for ultra entertaining YouTube. We will rock it down here and again. I will, if there are large swaths of this campaign that are either redundant or super boring, or my narration just takes a shit, we'll be sure to skip those. But the bottom line, yeah, cavalry got a big boost. I would say cavalry is now properly balanced. Cavalry is really strong, but it's not overpowered. Meanwhile, I think archers in general are 3 notches too good. Like, I think they could nerf them considerably and they would still be the best troops in the game. In other words, the best type of unit, especially with tactics. And of course, we will do significant tactics on these episodes. All right, the early stages here, very early stages, basically amounts to chasing down looters, trying not to fight too many. It ultimately comes down to might makes right. And so you want a good-sized force that you're pitted against, but you don't want it to be 28 looters, for example. You want to try to use the edges of the map like this and corner them. It's fortunate they kind of beeline you a little bit. And what I mean by that is older versions, they would escape you like a perfect AI-driven unit. They're a little bit sporadic now, and they kind of run around like they just drank a 40, crumpled up their paper bag, and threw it in the river before you engaged them, right? They act a little bit drunk. But I think that's preferable to them acting superior on the campaign map where you can't even engage them, right? We want to just... Let's get this on. The bottom line is that at this stage of Bannerlord, and this is another new map. I'm just sort of observing the maps, but at this stage of Bannerlord, you are basically supposed to be learning, right? The experienced player is not learning, other than how deadly looters are, or that we need to upgrade our horse speed here. Partly we got to get a faster horse. We're riding like a broken down horseman. Or a broken down, somebody's pony from the backyard. And you better hold up your shield because those looters are out here, right? And they're coming for you with their little flying turds. They throw little rocks. And with the accuracy of these guys, look at that guy reloaded quickly. And if my shield didn't break it there, I was in trouble. And we should still be able to do some hacking here. The good thing is that rocks don't do major damage. They will eventually wear you out, right? And one of the early things in a campaign is it takes a long time to heal. So you want to make sure that your character generally gets through battles without too much damage. The lighting in the game is a 12 out of 10. It's just incredible. The visuals are outstanding. Right? It's a beautiful game in a number of different ways. The violence is beautiful. All right, we get some upgrades here. A pretty clean battle. We lost one of our noble dudes, no, we didn't. We lost one of the non-noble units, and we're going to immediately start getting archers. Now this is the noble line, and I don't think we want to get too fast and furious with the upgrading, right? That's something we'll talk about here for the first 15 minutes, is that much of the early game has to do with financial management. Now we look properly raggedy. You very much have to be careful with your money, especially in a campaign like this where I don't know the cities. I'm not sure, what we're going to run into. The quests are significantly changed. If you don't know that part, especially things like tournaments are exceedingly rare now, right? The original Bannerlord, almost half the time you went to a city, there would be a tournament there. We're not going to bother much with trade. The guys who are like, oh, see how much you can get, buy some fish and sell it at the town. I just don't I'm not going to engage in stuff like that, right? Like I said, there's whether it's Flesson 19 Strat Gaming Guide. I promise you, we'll be doing all kinds of great guides for the game. If you really want to get deep into the weeds on stuff like that, I'm very happy to recommend YouTubers to you, but I'm probably not going to do a whole lot of it myself. I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and areas like that. Partly, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do stealth. So you guys are certainly free to check out Strat Gaming Guide, of course. Mr. Chicken does great stuff. Flesson 19. There's a half dozen YouTubers off the top of my head that I have patronized in the past and happily recommend to you fellas. All right, it didn't take too long for us to get a good-sized army here. And we need some horses. Some horses basically help your movement speed and others don't, right? If you have like these pack animals, it does increase the overall amount of stuff you can carry, but not your party speed, right? The only thing it would do is prevent you from being encumbered, right? So you don't really want these kind of horses. You want your faster real horses, like this kind of guy here, although obviously we can't afford him. So very early on here, we'll just sell some loot. Like I said, it's a constant game of managing your funds. We can't really afford a companion. We're literally going to the store and counting our pennies to try to make sure we don't go broke, right? We want to keep a little buffer in case you go 2 or 3 days without having a battle. And still no tournaments, right? Not a single tournament at any of the locations we've gone to. I think that's either the second or third city we've been to. Let's take another peek here, right? This is a new city, I think. Another cutscene. There's an Aserai Corsair, or maybe that's the Sultan wearing some new clothes. We'll do some of this action here. Just take a peek here at this Nordic town. And a concave side there. Huge long walls. That's a little bit distressing. I'll zoom back even further here. You can see the little tiny red dot of my character. It makes it feel properly big and epic. But that also means it's a little harder to defend at times because it's hard to shuttle reinforcements from one end to the other. It's difficult to know exactly where the siege tower and ladders are going to go. But I'm just sort of doing some early scouting here. By the way, right, you cannot go to the custom battle right now and do siege defense with the Nords. I imagine that's an oversight by Tail Worlds, but that's part of the reason I'm exploring like this, right? Because you can't do it any other way. I doubt there's any quests we can do. There's no tournaments. There's no quests. And so it can be a little bit of an awkward stage of Bannerlord right here, right? We're essentially reduced to chasing down looters. And when you get to this size of an army, it can be difficult because it slows you down a little bit, right? Now this is borderline work done. He wants some grain. I guess we can see how much he wants. 750. I guess we'll take a chance here. So 750 he says for the grain. We got to give him 30. Is that what he said? 30 grain. 30 grain as soon as possible. We already have 13, so we can get like 20 more, something like that. We'll have enough for us and for him. Quests early on can be pretty important, right? Because we have very little money. If we can go do this quest, we got to have 30 plus. We've got 13 right now. We want to have a little bit after we pay him off. It says our log is updated, completed. Right now we could go 10 days, right? Just paying our men. We've got food. We've got 58 food, although we're about to give 30 of it away. Drapan Castle sieged by the Nords. Let's take a peek at that after we talk to this fella. See what we get here. Hopefully it gives me like 1,500. Money. Usually you get money. Maybe not. Maybe it's still coming. This guy just robbed us. We just gave him. So all we got is positive relations. Well, okay. So don't do that quest. To hell with the villagers, right? They can go hungry. We can barely afford it. That was like basically a freebie. We gave him our money, unless there's still money coming. This is really interesting, right? Because this is immediately. I wonder if this is too. This is the Nords declaring war. Probably. Oh shit! I just got chills. That is sick. Probably declaring war, and look at this shit. They're already under siege too. They should have stayed at home. It says Valandia is sieging. There's no chance that Tail Worlds is watching, so I would say they shouldn't show the exact number of troops that are here. It doesn't make sense to me. We don't have a satellite link to Savfk. That's just not a thing, right? It tells us precisely how many troops are there and what lords are there. That's not a thing. Even if you were there, you wouldn't know that. I'd love to see them fix that where it just says there's a lot of troops there. So the Nords are sieging. They're sieging a castle there. And where's the other one here? They're sieging. It's probably them. Oh, so Sturge is sieging there. Man, they're way. Sturge is sieging there? That's strange. But so the Nords are sieging the Valandians on their land, and the Valandians are like, oh yeah, well, we'll take your city here on this island. This is called Baneguard Island or Baneland or something like that. All right, where were we? We were mumbling, complaining about something. Let's see here. Heading through this valley, and we're looking for targets, something fierce, right? We just gave all our money away to starving citizens. Damn those starving citizens. Sea Raiders. This might be more than we can bite off. But we're still going to try. Now, there's a hideout. You do get money and other little things for clearing it out. But I would prefer that you have one of the quests activated. There are certain quests. Oh, good. We got this guy cornered, I think. And those quests basically pay you extra for clearing out the bandits. So not only do you get to clear out the bandits and get whatever rewards, but you also get money for doing so. All right. This looks like a little bit more of a stout fight. We really don't have a lot we can do, right? When I look at our troops here, I can recruit 2 looters, but I'm not eager to do that. It hurts our morale. We have plenty of looter type of troops. I guess we can do some shit here. Probably going to be stabbing a little bit. Again, not too overly worried about. Damn, we had this guy. Now he's running. Don't get away. All right, it says it's going to be close, right? So won't take anything for granted here. Once it gets to the point where we significantly, are the favorite in the campaign menu, we will auto resolve some of these. But in the short term here, we're going to do at least some basic things to improve our odds of succeeding. And also, we got to get this guy leveled up a little bit. Sometimes it's valuable also for new players to see what an experienced player does. See if I can't get laid on my back here. Again, we're talking super accurate ranged units, and I don't have any ranged units, right? I need to pick up some of those javelins. I mean, I guess I could pick them up. Probably get killed just trying to pick them up, though. I mean, they're just flinging them through the air, and I insta-died. Right? So you get an idea. They're ultra accurate, and they're killing our troops. This will be really bad if we lose. Get in there, boys. You're going to have to take flank attacks, and you're going to also have to have a faster horse. I think our horse is so slow. This is nice. We'll take some prisoners. Or a combination of factors. Our horse is slow. We have terrible armor, and they're ultra accurate. I think you add those things up, and you're in for it, right? We're all in for it, essentially. Now, they got some great loot, and I do remember this. These are like automatic things. When you see Sea Raiders, you should run towards them, right? They're going to have some pretty good loot. The idea is these guys are out here robbing guys, right? So these are really short weapons. I'm more likely going to sell these, and we will talk about stuff like that as well. There are some things that are worth a lot that are kind of worthless, and that's a pretty good example. Now, I got to be careful not to get into too big of a fight for a little while here because I will have to auto-resolve that. That happens to me all the time. You're not really aware of it, right? You're not thinking, oh, I can't fight. The game won't let you even enter the battle. You can't even go down to the battlefield until you have, I want to say 20% health. It's 15 or 20%, something like that. So just another thing to consider here. All right. And they're selling whale oil here. So there's new equipment, and this is absolutely rad. There's storms crackling off the side of the coast. Undoubtedly, at some point, we are going to get, some gnarly sea battles. Starting to go broke here a little bit. Let's see what we can sell. You can sell shit just to the village here, right? Like I can just sell some of these axes. You don't want to sell for more money than they have, but I'm happy to sell it down basically to the point where they're out of gold. Each village typically has 1,000, right? So I'm going to be able to pile up a little bit of money at villages because you got to keep those troops paid, right? You got to keep them fed. You got to keep them paid. Fortunately, you don't got to buy like rain gear and shit for them. Damn, I wanted to view the castle, but you got to pay like all our money just to get in. It's a very expensive tourist attraction. All right, we like that, right? We like 20 looters. I prefer to fight them one at a time, right? You definitely want to Early on, you're absolutely might makes right in Bannerlord. You're just picking on weak units, and it's completely a number game, right? Your tactics early on are highly limited. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to catch him. It's actually okay that I'm just sort of chasing this guy because I need to heal, even if we chase him across the battlefield, right? Where it's costing us 80 a day. We can do that for a while. And I did mention this maybe 10 minutes ago. It's so important early in a campaign to not get injured, because precisely what happens now happens to you, right? If we had back-to-back fights, we're auto-resolving because our character he's unconscious, right? Now, again, the looters, it's almost like they felt bad for me. A little bit of a pity there. They pulled up. They pulled up and let us catch them so that we can attack here. I got to get some kind of throwing weapon, right? We'll go to a store, see if we can't find some javelins to throw. You always want to have something like that, right? You want to have that versatility. And we're very slowly starting to form a little bit of a strategic line here, right? Like we have infantry. My God, my horse is slow. It literally almost stopped going up the hill. I feel like if I don't, like if I go up any steeper hill, like this is the vehicle's top speed. This has got to be because it's snowing. This is unbelievable. And this is why, of course, experienced players like me have a really hard time playing the game without the RTS mod. The speed is astonishing in the early game. After you've played a long campaign or after you've gotten some experience, it's just amazing how slow you move. I mean, it feels like my horse is slower than my walking speed. And maybe it is, right? Maybe it's almost that slow. When we get some kills here, that'll certainly help it. Now, they're using slings, which is cool. People ask a lot, what about slings? The bottom line with slings is that they're sort of useful in the early game and worthless after the early game. They're not usable. Or put it to you this way, they're not comparable to javelins or good throwing axes once you're probably 15 to level 15 to 20. Anything past that, you're wasting your time. We can recruit looters. This is really sweet. We can recruit Sea Raider, Sea Chief. Let's see. We got to watch our morale. Morale is really important early in a campaign because if your morale drops too low, your guys are very happy to rout, right? They're very happy to, in a battle where you're like, come on, men, fight. And they just fuck this job and they go the other way, right? That's very much a threat if your morale gets too low. All right. You've probably seen enough of me fighting looters. Maybe we'll do one or two more here. Some guys are like, I want to see every minute of the full campaign. Man, I appreciate that. I can't tell you how flattering that is. But at the same time, I think 98% of people sort of want to see the highlights. So maybe we'll show one more battle here, especially if it happens soon. But even like 11 looters, if it was 40 looters, we could do a little bit of tactics. But when it's 11 and 13, we got to hit a clan tier. It's still a little ways. It's a little on the dry side, right? It's a tad bit on the dry side, and there's only so much narration I can do here. Now, this is exactly how you get caught. It's like getting dark and daylight, just like earlier. Those guys came out of nowhere, and that's your scouting skill, of course. That's sort of, it's half up to me if I get captured here because I'm not paying close attention. And these guys are all cruising around faster than me. This is why you need horses, right? Guys are like, go get horses, but we don't have a lot of money to get horses, right? So you're kind of in a tough spot. The early stages of Bannerlord are surprisingly difficult compared to the later stages. And I think a lot of guys probably give up early. Like they play this and they're like, damn, this is really hard. And then once they start rolling in a campaign, they're like, I can't believe I used to think this was hard. But it is, right? You're trying to manage the funds. Where did they go? They just ran. Where are they going? I guess you can cross the river here. They're like in the river. Okay. It's interesting. So it's like you can sort of wade through the river here. Or maybe just the edges of it, I guess. Yeah, I thought that was strange. It seemed like they were literally just crossing a river that did not look like you should be able to cross it. All right. Well, we need targets, and we need targets something bad. I need like a quest that says, follow this caravan over here, some shit like that, because it's hard for me to catch looters. And obviously we're hemorrhaging cash every single day. Now, we could buy a horse or two, but not for 800, right? We can't spend all our money on horses. So you just kind of slog along. And the main purpose for the early game, obviously, is to have most players, this is where they're learning, right? This is where they're learning how to ride a horse. They're exploring. They don't want it to blaze by, right? The creators of the game did not want the early game to just blow by you. Otherwise, you wouldn't learn. You'd be in later stages of a campaign getting ripped apart because you hadn't learned any tactics at all. There's still no arenas anywhere. There's still no quests. What about javelins? Can we buy some javelins? Large bag of simple javelin. 6. All right, all right. We'll get some large. I'm going to get 2 bags just in case I want to load up more. They're cheap. 140, 160, something like that. We can afford that. I'd buy horses if they had some here, right? But they don't. Right? You can't really. I could buy one. Right? What you want is 6, 12, 10. That dramatically affects this, right? Right now we have the plus cavalry. We probably have like a horse. We have 7 sumpter horses, and we need to upgrade the main character's horse, but I'm not going to do it at this stage. A lot of these I'm going to kind of blaze through the events. I'm not too worried about traits. That's an understatement. I don't give a shit about traits. Whoops, missed an opportunity right there. Well, it looks like he wants to give me a second one. I think this is a good change, right? It's maddening to chase down looters already. But when, like I said before, when they're Jet Li on the campaign map, it's especially difficult. And again, if you're new to Bannerlord, you're definitely fighting these because you need to get your experience on, right? You need to throw your javelins into faces of looters. And this probably won't happen. We just lost one of our archers. It's probably not going to happen because your troops are just going to blast your way through looters. If you outnumber them, right? That's, again, one of the key points. I would not fight any battles in your campaign where you're outnumbered until you're like very comfortable with the game, maybe tier 2, right? And or you have good troops. Like it's a really good way to lose. It's not a certainty, but man, unless you're really good at stabbing people with your horse or whatever, you're going to lose an awful lot of fights that way. All right, I'm just wandering around looking for action. More looters here. Anywhere they are. Name of the game at this stage. What's our costs here? We're running 100 a day. We got plenty. You want to kind of monitor this stuff, right? This is your very basic logistics. I got days with food. We've got days of worth of money, but we need fights, right? The longer you just kind of aimlessly wander, the more everything you're hemorrhaging. You're hemorrhaging food. You're hemorrhaging your patience, right? Your attention span. Just like the average person in Western civilization, their attention span has cratered like 4 seconds in the last 3 decades, thanks to so-called smartphones, right? We're suffering all kinds of deleterious effects. I'll get both of these. I kind of want some interesting battles. Not going to happen, probably. All right, how do we do here? All right, here, finally, something more worthwhile. Archers. Now, this is... Trepidation is the word I think of when I see this kind of a setup, right? What do they have here? 11 ranged units. Now, those... Fortunately, there's no elite archers in there. I just heard thunder crackle against rad. If these were forest bandits, I wouldn't even engage here because we'd probably lose. Archers are so accurate now in Bannerlord that if you go up against good high-level archers, you lose. That's the result, right? You can win. It's just not going to be easy. Find some water battles eventually. I don't think you can even get a boat at this stage and get out on the water, right? We're just broke. We're barely maintaining our money. So it's still going to be a little while for that. Got to get a better horse. Our horse is slow. We got our javelins, though, here. We can chuck some javelins. The graphics are just a 10 out of 10, right? Like, I could die to that kind of a sunset. That's absolutely incredible. I hear people calling them light boxes, and maybe that's some young person lingo. What we can do here just with archers up high. and infantry and a shield wall. Let's test the effectiveness of shield walls here. Now the bottom, underneath that 11, right? The 11, of course, is how many little archers there are right there. I better keep my distance here before I'm laying in the dirt. There's normally supposed to be a bottom number. That is something they're working on. I'm surprised actually it's not fixed by now. That's something that came to life, so to speak, with the 1.32. Shoot, charge, do something, get up there. Our archers are not shooting. Some archers have shorter range. These archers are close. Why aren't they shooting? Shoot. Finally, they're opening fire. So that's worrisome, right? That might mean that the Nords have really short-ranged weapons, right? There are some weapons that frankly have longer range, and that looks to be an example right there. Like they had to run towards the enemy for a while before they could shoot. Meanwhile, they were getting shot, right? So that's a bit ominous. If the Nords have bad archers and no cavalry, I don't think most people are going to enjoy playing them. And we've been running preview videos, of course, trying to cover the DLC because obviously everybody's been anticipating the DLC for all this time. But I think unless the Nord archers become a lot more effective than what we've seen so far, and just get mangled by archers, I think a lot of players, it's going to wear off real quick playing the Nords. Because they're going to have a hell of a time against archer-heavy armies. Horse archers are going to be torturous. We didn't do shit there. We should have just auto-resolved. But victory is victory. And you know what? Let's see, how are we going to do this? I'm going to run to town. And the next time you see me, we may be clan tier 1 or something like that. I'm going to spend the next hour trudging through some looters and stuff like that, looking for tournaments. And we will be right back. Wait, how was that? More force bandits? Well, you auto-resolve, right? I can't even fight here. Get him. The maddening quarter centimeter away. And what's interesting is auto-resolve works well. I guarantee we lose more than 2 guys there if we play that out. Now we're getting some good upgrades. Get a few looters. All right, let's get to town. Let's upgrade a little bit.